Today, I have the honor of introducing the next governor of this great state of Indiana and our next First Lady. Let's all stand and give a proud Jasper congratulations and welcome to Governor Mike Braun and our fantastic First Lady Maureen.
Nancy, thank you so much. And Maureen, I'm glad you're not coming back up here because we're not going to go into those stories here today. It's been quite a journey. I think back, even walking in here today, our first date on December 31st, 1971 was right here for a New Year's Eve celebration. And bumped into Al and Jane. Of course, Al and I ran track, played football together, basketball together, and we didn't necessarily have the training rules back then that you do now. So I've got some other interesting stories that won't come up today, but all the memories flow forward. And when I and 4 classmates decided to go to an all-male school, Wabash College, all of us as pre-med students, biology majors. Well, I can tell you the other 4 completed the task. I decided I didn't want to spend 8 to 9 years after undergrad going to medical school, and I think I made the right decision then. Get to see them now and then. A couple of them retired. But what I think mostly about is the community that we've all been blessed to have been dropped into. I talk about that often. When you go into the political world, people want to know your background. They want to know why you'd ever have the crazy idea that after being called to be on your local school board, which occurred back in 2004, that was Bernie Vogler calling for Maureen to be on the board, and I was going to have fun saying, dear, you should have gotten on the school board. You got plenty of time. Well, if you know Maureen, she doesn't have any time to spare. She's doing something all the time. She concludes the conversation very politely. Bernie, I've told you I can't do it, but maybe my husband would be interested. Remember that, dear? Had that not occurred, almost certain wouldn't be standing here this evening. So, served 10 years on our school board. We weren't dealing with some of the things school boards have to deal with now. But you just think back, I was 50 years old when I did that. I'd always had a vague interest of maybe getting involved in politics, but then life takes over. Once I got out of Wabash, I ended up going to business school. I was going to go to law school. That was too much extra education and time. And I think about how you get guided along the way. And then I go back to where you're from, how you were raised. Because generally you got to figure out kind of where you got the bearings, where you got the point of view. And again, we're all lucky that we're from a place like Jasper, because once people come here, they see what you're about. They understand that it wasn't an overnight victory in the real world of running a business. It was 17 years in a used mobile home in Hayesville. Didn't get out of that until we moved on to Kathy Lane back in 98. And then 4 kids come along, 3 of whom are willing to work in your business. What a blessing. So when you're rooted and grounded in that fashion, that's kind of an explanation of how it makes sense that you may be competent to take on a task of getting involved with running for Senate and then having to make a tough decision of running for governor. Where we're going to go forward as a state, I feel a lot better than where I think we're going to go as a country, which will be okay, but I've spent 6 years there, and hardly any senator gives up a Senate seat. The irony in my case was it was another fork in the road. It was either or. And when you bring to a place like that, that's never taken Finance 101, they don't do budgets, they don't live within their means, a complete opposite again of what a successful life is about. It wasn't really frustrating because I knew mostly what I was getting into. But when you are there, you can either be resigned to the fact that you've got to be there 2 terms minimally, and of course I pledged, because I'm a big believer in term limits, until we get them in a balanced budget amendment. Don't expect Vivek and Elon to all of a sudden change a place like that. I think it's a start, and the system does need to be shaken up. But when the founders built this democracy, there was a thing called the 10th Amendment that meant that the federal government shouldn't do anything other than defend the country unless it's enumerated. And look at how far we've come since then. And what we've done there is created a monstrosity of a bureaucracy that is run by career politicians. And you got a guy like Trump that comes along, shakes the system up, and it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next 4 years. So I wish them well. Actually going down to Mar-a-Lago tomorrow, Maureen and I are, all Republican governors are meeting with the president-elect for a meeting on Thursday evening. So things start rocking and rolling here pretty quickly. Optimism and always having a point of view that is going to keep you in a good place so you do well with whatever opportunity has been given to you, to me is important. Like when I told Maureen, after I was 3 years a state legislator, by the way, I became a legislator when a guy named Mark Messmer calls me in 2013 when he wanted to run for state senate. Mike, would you be willing to run in the seat I'm going to vacate? I wasn't really thinking about it, but I did learn enough that the windows, once you're in the game, don't open at your behest. They normally come along when you may be least ready to do it, and I said yes. Look at the chain reaction there. He's now representing us as in the 8th district as our congressman. Had he not done that, I wouldn't have become a senator or the governor. Sometimes maybe destiny's involved again, and you always ask for guidance from up above. But my optimism is that the country was built upon communities and states and individuals that take risks, stick their neck out, not government. We created the system to get out from underneath the thumb. That's what the founders did. They would have never imagined, like I referred to earlier, that it would have gotten to where it has. But the reason I came back and ran for governor is that when you can set the agenda, and we've got a supermajority in our state legislature, and we can thank Southern Indiana for that. Is Don Hayes here by chance today? Don't think so, but he was the loneliest county chair in the state, you know, when we were a landslide the other direction, until that all flipped over the last 10, 15, 20 years. But what it's given our state, when Mitch Daniels came in 20 years ago, we were a purple-red state, in the red financially. He had to fix up some things. And by the way, a bunch of folks that worked in the Daniels administration have jumped back into the game because they can see something is afoot in terms of what the potential is looking forward. But 20 years of one party having an office, especially at the governor's level, that had not happened often in our history's past. And when you do have it, it means there are going to be expectations that we get some things done. And when you're tackling education, we're blessed with a great public school system here. We're lucky. Many places don't have that. I'm a big believer in choice and parents driving the equation of what's best for their own kids. I'm going to put that into practice. We've moved a lot down that trail. Proudest thing I've done in politics or business is when I was so sick and tired of hearing how lucky I was. My insurance is only going up 5 to 10%. You should have been in that renewal meeting back in 2008. I think Jeff was there with me, and we fixed healthcare to an extent by making it consumer-driven, giving every wellness and prevention tool, and we were large enough to self-insure at the time to where we really controlled the cost of healthcare, which besets families and businesses across the state. So all kinds of things you can do. Property taxes. Anybody been happy with their property tax bill over the last 2-3 years? Yeah. Normally I get booed when I say that. So that's going to be Senate Bill 1 because I campaigned on it. Just met with the leader of the Senate yesterday and the leader of the House. So we're all going to be in sync on running a very tight ship fiscally and being very entrepreneurial politically. So I think you can look forward to seeing some things in a state that's run pretty well, even go to that new and next horizon. So I want to thank all of you for turning out on a day like Nancy said. Lucky she didn't schedule it for January 6th, I guess. It would have been probably called off. So glad that we were able to get it. And what a crowd to show up on a day like this. I'm going to hang around till probably the last person leaves. But thank you all. Many of you have been here from the get-go. And I told the story earlier when I tried to get my first campaign check. I don't like fundraising, none of us do. Of course, that's what you do almost in its entirety. And the first place I ventured into, back when I ran for state rep, was into my insurance agent's office, a guy named Alan Kunkel. Yeah, try getting a campaign check out of Alan Kunkel. First thing he said when I walked into the office, because he knew it was coming, he said, "Mike, you need to have your damn head examined. What are you thinking?" If you know Alan, that wouldn't surprise you. Gone hunting with him a lot, and did it even after he gave me a campaign check. But I said, "Alan, I think it'll be a good return on investment." And I hope all of you think that it has been. It's a source of pride for me and Maureen, our family, to choose to move back to the greatest place you could have ever been dropped into. And buckle up. I think you're going to see a state that does what we'd all expect of it. And I can't wait to be part of it and leading the way. Thank you so much. Much appreciated.